I was getting quite worried there. If it was going to be like the CEOs. The Nation Media Group CEO, Stephen Kitagama, my friend, you have heard I'm always here gracing Nation's events. And I'm not sure you give me commensurate coverage. Anyway, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Kina Mama hi. Kina Mama hi. Nimesikia mkiulizwa kina mama mpo. It's really an honor to be here, and I am delighted to join you today on this International Women's Day Gala Dinner. Looking around the room, where numerous sectors are represented, it is obvious that women continue to make outstanding contributions in their fields of vocation. There is not a scarcity of qualified women in our country. And from where I stand at this moment, I have an unobstructed view of all the adorable attires, daring designs, and heavenly hairdos, and with heels to match. I know you will agree that women's economic empowerment really does look good. To keep it in proper perspective, I can imagine I was looking at, I won't say who, and I know that it has taken at least for each one of you 5 personal care professionals to present you so elegantly. And they are watching you, inspired and in support from near and far, and if nothing else, that in itself empowers a lot, and especially women in those sectors. That is just but a quick illustration of the immediate impact that empowered women have on the economy and development of our nation. March 8th marks International Women's Day, a global celebration of women's socio-economic, cultural, and political achievements. This day serves as a reminder of the ongoing efforts to achieve gender equality and highlights the need for continued advocacy and action worldwide. The theme for this year is Invest in Women and Accelerate Progress. I know we all believe it. If you invest in women, you will accelerate progress, which seeks to address economic disempowerment, while the campaign theme for this year is Inspire Inclusion. Inspire Inclusion. International Women's Day is a significant reminder of the importance of diversity and empowerment in all sectors of society. The day brings attention to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, gender-based violence, and abuse against women, providing a platform for collective action and collaboration in advocating for women's rights and empowerment. Despite progress, and I have heard from the panelists that there's been significant progress over the years, gender parity is still far from being achieved, with the World Economic Forum estimating that it will take, guess how many years to achieve gender parity? 100 years, a century to attain gender equality. That is the estimation from the World Economic Forum. It is in this background that the 7 elected women governors, and with the support from various partners, have initiated a movement which we are now calling G7. Imetetemesha wanaume kidogo, eh? This G7's main agenda is to encourage and support women to take up leadership, not just political, but to take up leadership roles in the various sectors. But for us who are in politics, to encourage those who aspire to political office to take up not just the lower seats, but the higher seats as well, and the seats for governors. The G7 strategy was launched yesterday by His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto. Through this initiative, the G7 governors aim to set an example by doing exemplary work in their counties to show the upcoming women leaders that they too can succeed if given the same resources and opportunities as men. We sat down and said, this nomination thing doesn't seem to work. We have tried it very many times, and for governor seats, you cannot nominate women. We always have conversations about barriers to entry. A woman, for example, will not run for office. One of the biggest hindrances they talk about is finances. Men, and we have very many men colleagues, it's very easy, and we talk amongst ourselves. When they want to run, they take a title deed, take it to the bank, get some money, and get money to run. I have never had a woman who has been given a title deed or permission by the family to use the title deed so that they can run for political office. It doesn't happen, it won't happen. And so we said the best way we can start changing these perspectives is to start changing the attitudes of the voters. And how best do you do that? If the 7 women governors perform exemplary, you will find people saying, even us, we can consider a woman governor. My neighbor and friend, Governor Cecily Mbarire, she actually got elected because she went around Embu saying, I will change Embu the way Governor Minji Minji has done in Kirinyaga. And because we are neighbors, what would happen is that a lot of the people who border Kirinyaga would come for medical services in Kirinyaga. And they kept saying, oh, have you been to Kirinyaga? Have you seen the road network? Have you seen the services that they're being given? Have you interacted with the women empowerment in agriculture? And it was a lot easier for her to be accepted. She says it everywhere. She said it yesterday at the G7. She says it when she's talking to women. And we figured that this could be the best way to encourage other women leaders. Now, in Nyanza, everybody is talking about Governor Gladys Wanga. Isn't she doing an amazing work? So it will not be difficult. The first woman from Nyanza to be elected as governor. I have no doubt that for her, as we say in politics, nikumi straight. 5 years and 5 years. As a matter of fact, all elected members of parliament from Homa Bay have a pact that none of them will go for the seat of governor until Gladys Wanga has finished 10 years. That's what we're talking about when we talk about aspiring and inspiring leadership. What is that likely to happen with the investment conference and the Bay of Endless Potential? Only women come up with those kind of things. And she's done amazing work in just 1.5 years. I've been there for 5, but I went to Homa Bay and I was completely challenged and inspired. I thought I had worked, but Gladys has done an amazing work. And I know that now we can approach women and tell them, you can try. And a lot more male people and voters will consider voting a woman in Western Kenya or in Luo Nyanza because of Gladys Wanga. So we want to be an example. We want to have programs that meet the needs of people. Many times we have conversations about why women leadership. A lot of the times I remember some of my colleagues telling me, I don't know why you're always talking about women being assisted. Who assisted you? How are you assisted to get to the seat? Let them fight for the seat just like you did. But we know that we all come from different backgrounds. There are certain backgrounds that give you an upper hand. For example, I had been in the civil service for a long time. and therefore it was easier for me to transition. But for someone to come from private sector or civil society who know that they can make a difference in their community, it is not that easy to just stand up and say, I'm going to run for governor. You're not known, you've never been heard of. It is not easy to go and sell yourself across the entire county. Through this initiative, governors aim to set an example, to be exemplary in their counties, to show upcoming women leaders that they too can succeed if given the same resources and opportunities. I am glad that the launch of the G7 strategy was very successful, and so the president commit himself by saying that going forward, if a man is a candidate for president in UDA, then the running mate will be? And if it is a woman presidential candidate, the running mate will be a woman. And why not? And why not? I said I look forward myself to the day Kenya will have 3-4 women presidential candidates running in different parties. Because the men do it. Why not the women? Why is it so odd that you can't have 2 or 3 women candidates? For the first time, let us have a handshake between 2 women. The leader of opposition, a woman, and the president, a woman. You know, and people said that I'm very bold in saying it. I think it's about time that women stepped up to that place. We cannot be limited. I'm very happy about my colleague, brother, and friend, Mheshimiwa Ishungwa, for saying that indeed the seat of governors should be set aside completely for women. But I have a little problem with it. It looks as if we are being told that is as far as you go. You guys come and take only the governor seat. And that is why we are pushing it further. We are saying these leaders, once they have demonstrated, and we're not talking about tokenism. We're not saying do us a favor. We're not saying just hold our hands because. We are saying we are capable. We are showing that we are capable. As a matter of fact, if you look at the info track for the media that shows the details, I think every time the info track is released, it's all over in the media. You will realize that all the women governors excelled in the various sectors. They were top 10 in all the sectors, the 7 women governors. And that says something about women leadership. Additionally, this will bring women to the decision-making tables, but also seem to bridge the 2/3 gender representation in government institutions. Additionally, it will give the women a platform to showcase their strength and talent in leading from the front. Sometimes people say, why must you be at the table? Because of diversity. The way I think about healthcare, having been a woman or being a woman and having given birth, for example, is very different from the way a man will think. And I'll give you an example. Most of you have seen the Kerugoya Level 5 hospital that we built. It was designed in-house in Kirinyaga County. My team was entirely male because those are the people who were the architects, the surveyors, the engineers, and all that. And when they designed it, they brought to make the final presentations before we went out to tender for it. And you will not believe it, I looked, and there was no maternity inside the hospital. So we were moving from an old building in level 4 building, and we're building a new one. This new one had ICU, it had HDU, it had a special burns unit, it had a male ward, it had, of course, triage and all that. 356 bed, and the maternity wasn't there. So I asked them, where is the maternity? You know, where is the women? They said, oh, we will keep that, the labor ward, and the maternity will be in the old hospital. And the new one will be, and I said, why? Why? Because you think that when women are in labor, they'll be noisy in the new hospital, and what is your thinking? They actually just didn't think that you needed women or the children in the new hospital. Diversity, perception, it was just, they didn't think. So when they're allocating wards, they said you can use, the women can still use the old hospital. It's those different perspectives. Why prioritize universal health care, for example? Why give subsidized fertilizer? You know, most women are farmers, and they're the ones who till the land. They're the ones who understand the needs of women from bottom up. Kirinyaga started implementing bottom up 5 years ago. We have a program called Wezesha Kirinyaga that seeks to practically empower women and increase their household's income by 1,000 shillings per day. And we put the women, as I have listened, they're very loyal. When they're given credit, they pay back, they're hardworking. Usually, their hindrance for progress is resources. And it's been extremely successful. And so for it to be scaled up at national level, even if it is called a different name, and why now, is because it had been tried by a woman somewhere. And it's because a woman sits down and thinks and looks at the perspective and says, for me as a mother, because I wake up very early in the morning to take care of the children, then go to the farm, then take my produce to the market, then come back, make sure the house is cleaned, do homework, stitch, as we say. I'm sure you have heard this story before. We stitch the buttons that are missing from our children's clothes. It doesn't matter who you are, so long as you're a woman, you do all that. Now imagine a rural woman. How much more? You have the luxury of driving a car. They probably would never drive a car because they can't afford it and they don't own it. Most of our women are relatively low income, and so they use public means, for example. You do all that, come home, ensure the family is fed, you yourself are the last to eat, okay? Clear the dishes, make sure the children are cleaned, they're in bed. At around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the man walks in. Maybe, they may bring something home, maybe, but we usually don't wait, do we? Tunakuanga tumejipanga, si ndio? After all that work, you are finished, he's fed, even him, he goes to bed. And you prepare yourself and say, finally, it's just a few minutes to midnight. I have about 4 hours of sleep before I wake up to start the routine again. And when you go to the bedroom, iko kazi ingine bado inakungojea, si ndio? Only a woman can handle that and wake up the next morning with a smile. Kweli ama si kweli? There is no woman. We were laughing about it today at the International Women's Day. It is very rare for women up country to have a day off. There is no day off for women up country. Sunday, the only difference that you end up going to church. But all those responsibilities, including the midnight one, you will still find it there. But women manage. And whether you are a banker, whether you are a taxi driver, whether you're a pilot, whether you're a doctor, whether you are a politician, our views, our perspectives, because of our experiences, are similar. And that diversity must be brought to the table for decisions to be made to make society a better place. On meeting the 2/3 gender rule, we acknowledge that while the private sector has made a lot of strides, I had the privilege this week to speak with NCBA, and I listened. And they are at 50-50. You know, I mean 50-50. I live for the day when in politics it shall be 50-50. I think this country will be a very different country. Imagine if counties, 20 counties, were run by women. Imagine if 100 constituencies were run by women, dedicated women, hardworking women, intelligent women, people who are committed, people who are visionary. Imagine the difference it would make. Some of the questions we ask, why would this person not think like this? Sometimes, and no offense to men, is an issue of perspective because you're men and you think in that way, and that's why you will need women to give you a different perspective. When you combine the different perspectives, society can only be a better place. Despite all our constitutional provisions, we haven't managed to get there politically. We have only 28 women members of parliament out of all our 290 constituencies. Other than the seats reserved for women, the women rep, only 28, imagine. And you know my challenge to you today? Guess who are the majority voters in this country? It's women. Why don't you women elect women? At least 50%. Maybe because we don't believe it from inside our heart that there is a difference. And that is why we have started the G7. We were saying G7 to G16, and we were challenged to say G7 to G24, at least a 50-50. Let's see if it's going to work by 2027. And we're not just sitting there saying, oh, we hope after we have done this great work in our counties, the women will come. I have started a challenge with my colleagues. My colleagues, second-term governors. Second-term governors are not running for a third term because the Constitution doesn't allow. I'm not running for a third term. And I said, since you're not running, what stops you from holding a woman's hand or supporting a woman so that you're replaced by a woman? There are very many women capable, many in the private sector, who have done great work wherever it is that they are. And they know that if they're given an opportunity in the public sector, they would add value. But they will not leave their jobs or come unless they are guaranteed that there will be that kind of support to help them win those seats. They're there. They are there. And I believe that some are here in this room. And maybe if we all played our part, if they did that, and we set the example, and society's perception started to change, we may inspire a little bit of a difference towards gender parity. I also firmly believe that the media, nation media, can play a huge transformative role in achieving gender equality in our society. And this is the media at large. I'm saying nation because they're the ones hosting us today. It can be done by creating gender-sensitive and gender-transformative content that challenges traditional, social, and cultural norms and attitudes regarding gender perceptions. I have heard about the Gen Zs. We're saying that they're a bit more different. They really don't care about gender and all that. But maybe the urban Gen Zs. If you go to the rural areas where a majority of Kenyans live, these perceptions are still there, even amongst the young people. Why? Because they live it. They see it every single day. They watch and they form certain views of what a woman should be, what a woman can do, and what are the limitations of a woman. And therefore, when they go to vote, they vote with those perspectives. And so media houses can contribute to this transformation by portraying women leadership roles as experts on a variety of topics on a daily basis rather than just exceptions. Allow me, indulge me, to just give you 3 examples of my personal contribution in government, and maybe to show you that it can be done. If someone is actually determined to do it, it can be done. If we give an opportunity to an individual who is committed and has a vision, it can be done. I don't know whether you know this, but the 30% Agpo rule was my idea. And it actually, we started by saying, how do we make sure that women in small, medium enterprises, how would we move these women from poverty? And we had looked at the portfolio in government and said, if we only gave 30% of this business to these small enterprises that are complaining, they are very hardworking, you have heard, they start at 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., If you go to Kagio Market, if you want, during campaigns, for example, and you want to talk to the women in Kagio, we needed to be there at 5 in the morning. If you're not there at 5, you won't find them. Because they come before 5, by 4 o'clock, they're offloading their bananas, their tomatoes, and all. The trucks have come to pick. They, of course, did all their transactions in the night. When the trucks come and pick, they get their payments and run home to prepare their children for school. That journey I was telling you about. It is the norm up country. Sometimes when we live in the urban areas, you don't actually see it. But if you go to the rural areas, you will see that. They will run home, they will milk the cow, they will make tea, and then the journey again starts. If these women were given an opportunity to do business, many of them who are capable, imagine how many successful billionaires you would have in this country. Unfortunately, that program started out very well, and then somewhere in the middle, the men got wiser, and so they would register their businesses in their wives' and daughters' names, and so they get the business, but the business actually then doesn't go to empower the woman as we had expected. Huduma Centres was also an initiative that I did when I was cabinet minister. Why did I do Huduma Centres? I remember I was challenged to change the public service. Sitting on my desk, I knew that one of the most difficult things is if you lost an ID and needed to look for a second ID replacement. How many offices you would have to go to, and you are in the city. Now imagine a woman in the rural areas looking for an ID, coming all the way to Nairobi to look for a relative. What would happen, many of us when we were growing up, you would host your relatives because they've come for a birth certificate and they have to stay in Nairobi for a week because they have to go to Nyayo House and then look for, I don't know which papers, come back in the evening, they didn't get it, they stay another day, third day, fourth day. And the same for passports, the same for driving license, paying tax, and all that. But look at the innovation and the transformation that Huduma Centres have done to the public service. We opened 42. When I left, I think now there must be at close to 47. You don't need to leave Kirinyaga County or Kisumu County to get your ID. You can actually just go to one stop, get your service, go back home, and come back and get the same service without coming to Nairobi. That was an innovation by a woman. We've been in Kenya forever, and we hadn't thought to do it. The Huduma Centres won in 2015 the #1 UN award for transformation in the public service. It's still being implemented, it's still transformative, and we're still waiting to see it cascaded to the second level. I am sharing that because sometimes people will look at you and think maybe you just want to be in politics for the sake of politics. I had the privilege of having a short stint at City. Shiko is here. She tried to convert me from a public servant, I think she's sitting there, to a banker, because I had a background from the World Bank. But I remember when I was sitting in City, my former boss called me and said, "What are you doing in City?" I said, "I'm working. I got tired of the bureaucracy in the government and I've taken a break and I'm done. You know, that's it. Whatever I've done, you, nganganeni, you know, let someone else push the country forward." And he told me, "You can't just sit there." And I pray that there are many other men like that in this country. He says, "You can't just sit there and be complaining about this country. You have an opportunity. You come back here and contribute to transforming this country." And I left City, a short stint. City is Citibank, and went back to government, the Treasury. In the 2 years before I became cabinet, Treasury had been attempting to automate the financial management system of government for from 2004 to 2009, and they had never succeeded. We had just started passing the Constitution, and I was given a deadline to finish fully automating the financial management system of government before elections of 2013. Within 2 years, many sleepless nights, because women were used to it. We don't sleep. We give birth and you stay awake for 6 months, you know, and we keep going, isn't it? Many sleepless nights. Those people who worked in Treasury will tell you it was not 1 day or 2 days, that we literally did not go home. And those who went home just used to go change and come back. And majority of my team members were ladies, young ladies. I asked for a young ladies team. And within 1.5 years, the government was fully automated. We implemented the integrated financial management system that is in use until today. All the transactions you do in government, I take credit for it. I said, allow me, because sometimes you give an example so that people can be inspired to take that step. We rolled out that system. It's the same one being used in the counties. And from that time until today, it's the same system. Automated cash management, automated procurement, automated budgeting end-to-end. I'm sure you remember there was a budget error some time back. That was before the system. And have a ledger. You cannot erase any transactions in that system. It's just like exactly what they had in City. And it was good that I went to City for a bit, because some of the things that I implemented were actually because of the system I had seen in Citibank. And General Ledger that produces several reports, whether it's for the auditors or just for your seniors, or for you to enable you to plan and budget. So we're not saying let's give women tokens and provide them space at the table. Many of these women in this room play a significant role in their institutions. They change institutions. Sometimes the story is told, sometimes it's not. But for all the things that you think about that can be better in this country, imagine for a moment if many of you, or some of you, or many who have not even shown interest, would be in the public space. Imagine Kenya. Imagine where I would be. I am persuaded, I'm a gender champion. I am persuaded that diversity and inclusion is the answer to many of our problems, because the gifts that a woman have are different from the gift that a man has. Your upbringing is different from mine. When we bring different diversity and perspectives, we find solutions to our problems. So I hope that Nation Media and other media take that challenge and inspire confidence and help us in changing our culture and in transforming society. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are ladies, to leave you with a challenge. You are the majority of the voters. When we talk about inclusion and not getting there, half the responsibility is on you. Make the choice. For those who are inspired to join leadership in the public space, gather your guts, be brave, it's not for the faint-hearted, and take the step. And for those who can support in whichever way, a word of encouragement, prayer, friend, guidance, whatever it is, even an encouraging word, play your part. I think if we did, we would see great transformation in this country. Allow me to conclude with a quote from Maya Angelou. Each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it, possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. When we stand, we don't stand for ourselves. We pray that when we stand and make a difference, that your daughters will be inspired, that they can be anything. You can be a pilot, you can be a governor, you can be president, you can lead a country, you can lead nations, you can go to the AU, you can go to the WTO, because they have seen women leading. I pray that all of us will play our parts. Happy International Women's Day, and God bless you all.